Everybody talks about resumes, and they can be kind of frightening, especially for people who are just getting started. And quite often, people will say to me, I really haven't done anything yet. I really don't have anything to put on a resume. And there are a couple things that I want to share with you right now that I think will help put you at ease a little bit. Number one, I want you to keep in mind that resumes do not get you jobs. And I'm going to repeat that because that's very important. Your resume is not going to get you a booking. And the reason why I say that is, and like, I'm not saying that, if you graduated from, Yale Drama School and have, impeccable theater experiences, that won't open up doors for you and have agents take you much more seriously than somebody who's done absolutely nothing. Of course, that is true, but it doesn't get you the job. And people understand you have to start somewhere. We're not born in this world with a great resume. So the important thing about creating your resume, and by the way, you might be surprised how much more you can put on your resume than you even realized. And I'm going to be sharing that with you. But the key thing for a resume, number one, be honest on your resume. I've heard stories of people lying on their resume, people making up things, people figuring, really, who's going to know if I really did that play or not? And, it's possible you might be able to fool a lot of people who, simply don't realize that you just made something up and you really didn't, perform in that play. But the thing is, besides from a moral point of view, I don't think it's really good to do that. But even if there aren't any morals here and you're just talking about a business decision, it's not good business. It's not good to lie in this business. I mean, or any business for that matter. So be honest in your resume. Now, if it's a play maybe that you did 15 years ago, well, if you did it, put it in there. That's fine, as long as you actually did the work. The other thing too, and I'm going to go into more details about this, I've also seen resumes where people will try to give the appearance that they did more than they really did. Like, for instance, they might list a film that they worked on, and they might put bartender down. Well, the fact of the matter is you're kind of giving the appearance and the impression that you worked as a principal in that film as a bartender, where maybe you were really only an extra. So, the thing is, once you start working that way and you start putting down extra work, trying to give the impression that it's principal work, if anybody ever finds out, which is very easy to do, it's going to make everything else on your resume suspect. People won't believe anything that you have in there. So just on a real quick note about extra work and whether it should or should not be listed on your resume, here are my thoughts. Normally, I would say to people, don't list any extra work on your resume. Being an extra on a project doesn't let the casting director know, or a director or an agent know whether you have any acting skills. If you are one of 10,000 people in a stadium scene, doesn't necessarily mean that you can act. So normally I tell people, don't list extra work. It's better not to have stuff in there. But on the other hand, I've also let people know that, let's say you've done nothing else in the for film or in television, but you've done some extra work. As long as you're very honest and upfront and you list extra in the category, at least that way people will know you've been on a set, you know what's going on, you know what to expect, you know what's expected of you. You know what? Maybe that would be helpful. But if you do that, make it very clear that you were an extra, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So the way that I'm going to be talking about resumes is basically I was doing a online private coaching session with a very talented actor who had a resume that needed a tremendous amount of carving and a lot of work to do on it. So what I'm going to be doing is, with her permission, I'm going to be showing you her resume, and then I'm going to show you what kind of changes needed to be made, and then you'll see the final product at the end here. So, and just because I didn't want to give out anybody's name, made up a first name, made up phone numbers and email addresses and things like that. But the very first thing on your resume should have your name, and it should be nice and big so people can see it. Now, as you can see, this is what, and I'll call her Rachel, this is what Rachel had on her resume. And you can see very clearly she wrote down personal information. And let me just tell you, you don't need to do that. People understand that this is your personal information, so you don't have to waste any space and just kind of repeat things by putting down personal information. For height, that is very important to have on a resume. People need to know how tall you are. However, if you are working in the States, I would simply stick with feet and inches. That's what everybody uses. In the modeling world, which, and by the way, there is no resume for modeling. The only resume that you have is for acting, which gets placed on the back of your headshot. And by the way, make sure that your resume is cut down to 8 by 10 so that it fits cleanly on the back of your headshot. You don't want edges sticking out. So make sure you cut it down to 8 by 10. But I would just stick with inches and feet. Your eye color, that's important for people to know. Now, some people will say to you, look, your headshot, it's color, it's in color. People certainly can see what your eyes look like, what color your eyes are, and that's true. And so some people say, I don't really need to put my eye color because they already know what it is. And if they can't see what your eye color is, then your headshot isn't very good. The reason why I still like putting eye color on there is that way they don't have to flip back and forth. And they might see your eye color on the front, they're kind of forgetting, they're looking at your resume and they're thinking, oh, wait a minute, the eye color, and it's just sitting right there and they can see it. Weight is also very helpful, and once again, I would stick with pounds if you're working in the States. And hair, and then once again, that's not a yes or no question. That's a that's a color question, and I would let them know about that. And it's the same philosophy. It's a color headshot; they can see it, but it's helpful for them to be able to see it again. Age, unless you are very young, I would not put an age on there. Some people suggest putting an age range on there. My thought is, why limit yourself? If somebody's looking at your headshot, and let's say you're 30 years old, but your headshot is indicating that you really look like you could get cast as a 25-year-old, well, why limit yourself? Let them decide on what age you should be. So I don't put age or age range on there. She also has bust size. You don't put that on there. It's not necessary. You don't even have to put sizes on the back of your resume. On a composite sheet for modeling, yes, but not on a resume. And then, as you can see, and once again, this got completely changed around. She starts off with education. She's got performance experience. All that is going to be deleted, and you will see that she actually had a 3-page resume, and your resume has to be 1 page, only 1 page. And if you say, well, I've got so many interesting things that I can put on there, what you need to do is pick and choose. Find the most important pieces, the most up-to-date, the ones that are going to be the most impressive, the ones that are going to show the kind of work that you should be getting. That's what you're going to list on here. So as you can see, there's a lot of information. There's additional experience, being a sales representative. Those things are irrelevant. You only want to have things on your resume that have something to do with acting. Basically, what you want to be doing is thinking, how can I make the casting director's life easier? How can I help the casting director do his or her job? So if they need somebody with a certain kind of talent, well, I will put that onto my resume. But if it has absolutely nothing to do with acting, I wouldn't put it in there, except for sometimes with special skills, but I'll talk more about that later. Um, so she also has something, and this one really did grab my attention, and it was waitress bartender, and she's RSA certified in Australia. Now, that grabbed my attention. I thought that was very interesting. And the reason why, as you'll see, I suggested that she keep that under her special skills is because, quite often a bartender is needed in a scene. So even though that it's true, that has nothing to do with acting, but you see bartenders in lots of different kinds of projects. So if you're able to show that you have those skills, that might be helpful. It might, get you brought in to read for a part where they need somebody with those kinds of skills. The other reason why I suggested that she keep that in there, only because it could be a very interesting conversational piece. And if you're sitting down with an agent or the casting director and they're looking over your resume and they go, oh, RSA certified Australia. What I don't understand. What's that all about? You lived in Australia. All of a sudden, you're starting a conversation. You're making, personal contact with somebody, and I think that can be very helpful. The other thing too is on your resume, do not have anything in there that is dealing with modeling, with pageants. That really, what will happen is it will work against you. Even though sometimes people will say, well, by being in a pageant, it will let people know I have the ability to be on stage, I can talk in front of large groups, and all those things are true, but as an actor, you should be able to do that. I mean, that's something you have to be able to do. And people still have this misconception. Oh, you're a model, you can't act. Oh, you're in pageants, you're not an actor. So I would, make sure you don't have anything on there that has to do with modeling or with pageant work. Now, here is what we finally cut things down to. And as you can see, this is so much cleaner than what we had before. So we have her name. It's bold. It's big. People can see it immediately. If you are in a union, that would be a good place to put it, right under your name. If you have, whatever phone number you're going to be using, I would put that underneath there. Now, if you are working with an agent, and let's say you have an exclusive contract with the agent, you will have the agent's information there. The agent will not want you to put your personal information because they want any kind of business dealings with, whether it's a producer, casting director, they want you to go through the agent. If you don't have an agent or it's not exclusive and you are marketing yourself, then you can have your phone number and an email address or a website. The other thing too is, and I'll show you with mine, I like the idea of having a photo right up there. That photo can be either your current headshot, if it could be the same one that you have on the other side, or if you have a different headshot, put it there. And the reason why I like that idea is so that way they looked at your headshot and they go, oh, okay, that person looks interesting, let's flip it over, and they can see you again as they're looking through your information. So as you can see over here as well, how I have the listings of the height, the weight, the eyes, and the hair. Now, her strength is theater. That's where she's had the most experience. She is planning on moving to New York. So in New York, theater is a big thing. It's the biggest market for theater in the United States. Chicago's pretty close. Some people say Chicago's even bigger, but there is no Broadway in Chicago. But it's much bigger there than in Los Angeles. So if you were planning on trying to market yourself to the LA area, then I would not lead with theater simply because that's not as important. It's going to be film and TV. So as somebody who's very interested in working in theater, she's going to lead off with theater. And you can see there are 3 columns. It's nice, it's easy, it's clean, and you're going to have the name of the play. You can have the character that you played, and then either you can put the name of the theater or the director um, in that 3rd column. Okay, for radio and TV spots, here's a suggestion. What I like to do, and you can see I have it here, I would put list available upon request. And the reason why I like to do that is because, let's say you did a TV commercial for a fast food restaurant and you decided you want to list it on your resume. Now all of a sudden there's a audition for a competing fast food restaurant. And if you have a competitor listed on your resume, you probably won't be considered for that audition because you've worked for a competitor. Now, they don't know whether that commercial is still running. They don't know if that commercial ran 10 years ago. They have no idea. So I think it's always better just to put list available upon request. And whenever you are sent out for a TV commercial, your agent should always ask you, do you currently have any conflicts running? And then you can, honestly say yes or no. And by the way, just speaking of being truthful, don't lie about that either. You can run into some really serious financial issues as well as other legal issues if you lied about it, and all of a sudden you wind up having 2 commercials running for competing products because you lied about the first one. Okay, special skills. This can actually be very helpful to you even if you don't have much else to put on your resume. Oh, by the way, I kind of just jumped over film, but you can see it's the same process. You'll have film in the middle, and you can have the name, the character, and if it's somebody that's not well known, then you can let them know how big of a role was it. Was it a lead? Was it a co-star? Meaning that maybe you worked on it for a day supporting, and then you can put the name of the director as well. If you just put a name of the character, that's not going to really help people because they might not know, who Larry was, in some independent film, and then they have no idea whether it was a starring role or a much smaller role. Now, as far as special skills go, this is something that can be extremely helpful to people, especially if you haven't had much experience. Put things in there that you are proficient in. You don't have to be a professional. So like, for instance, she has basketball, softball, swimming, and she made it very specific. What kind of swimming is she proficient in? Same like the horseback riding. Well, put down more specifically, do you do dressage? Do you do English? Do you do Western? Whatever you are better at, and it also makes you look more knowledgeable about whatever you're saying that you can do. But remember, in here as well, be honest. Don't make things up. Don't just say, oh, how hard could it be to ride a horse? I'm sure it would be no problem. It's better to turn the job down and not get it simply because you don't have the proper skills than to lie about it and then show up on the set and create all kinds of problems. For education, you can put, if you have a college degree, even if it wasn't connected with theater or with acting in any way, that's okay. It lets people see that you've got a wider range of education, and I think that's fine. So anyhow, you can see here that even if you don't have a tremendous amount of experience, you can put things on a resume that will be very, very helpful to you. And just to kind of show you here, this is what my resume looks like. And I do have another photo, and I think it's really nice just for people to be able to see what you look like as they are reading through your resume. So I hope this was helpful to you. And yeah, if you do have any questions, and if I wasn't able to get to it and I can't get to it right now, always just either wait till the end of the day and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you, or there'll be information showing you how you can submit your questions and I will answer them at the very end of the day. So, Joel, are there any questions for people?
Absolutely. We got a few that came in, Aaron. I know we're running
Okay.
short on time here, but let's try to get to as many of these as possible. Marissa in Atlanta asks, do you suggest I use my home phone number on my resume, or should I use a different number?
Okay, that's a great question. And you know, it can be tricky because the fact of the matter is you could go to a very legitimate audition and you hand in a headshot with your resume. And they're not going to hold on to it. And let's say they throw it in the trash can. The fact is, and I hate to have to say this, but you have no idea who might be going through agents or production companies or casting directors trash. And all of a sudden they pull out a headshot and they look at it and they go, oh, she's attractive. Uh, oh, here's her phone number. And now you've just given away your phone number to the world. So here's another option. And that's another reason why, by the way, if you do have an agent, that's why it's also great just to have your agent's information there. But here's another option for you. And it's actually somebody taught me this who was taking one of my workshops, and I wasn't familiar with it, so I'll share it with you. You can go to google.com/voice, and you can actually get a phone number free. And I know quite a few people that use the google.com voice phone number. And what you do is you just have to fill out a couple questions there, put in your zip code, and then you'll get a list of phone numbers, and you just choose one for yourself. And what will happen is you can put that on all of your business materials, let's say on your resume, and then when somebody calls that number, you can set it up so that it gets transferred and forwarded to another phone, whether it's your home phone or your cell phone, however you want to set it up. That way you're not giving out your personal phone number. The other thing that's really cool is that when that phone rings, you will see a certain number pop up, which will allow you to know this is a business call. And if I'm not mistaken, I was told that if you don't answer it, it will come to you in a text form as well if somebody leaves you a message. So I think that might be a really good way to not have to put your personal phone number on your resume.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. We got about 3 more minutes left. Brian from New Jersey asks, do I need different resumes for different auditions?
Oh, that's a very interesting idea, and I do know some people that will do that. If they're auditioning for theater, then they might have a separate resume that really features more of their theater work. If they're doing film, they might have a resume that it's more heavy filled with with film credits. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. And considering how easy it is today to create different resumes on your computer, sure, why not do that? If you're just getting started and you really don't have much to say on a resume, then there's no need to do that. But yeah, if you've got a lot of possibilities, sure, have a couple of different resumes. Just like some people will have a few different headshots as well.
Great. Let's try to get 2 more questions in here, Aaron. Gwen from Arizona asks, would it look cleaner to print my resume on paper with an adhesive backing and simply place that on the headshot instead of using staples?
Oh, yeah, I've seen people do that. I tell you the reason why I don't, and some people also will just take some glue and put it on the back of the headshot and then place their resume on there. But there is that special adhesive that you can also purchase, paper that has the adhesive on the back. I'll tell you the reason why I don't, it seems very time consuming. It seems like it would be easy to miss a little bit as you're putting it on there, and all of a sudden it's like a little crooked, and now you just wasted a resume and you just wasted a headshot. So I mean, look, it's not wrong to do it. There's nothing, there's no problem with doing that. I just find that it's a little tough to do it that way, and certainly it's more expensive. But anyhow, and some people will even just print their resume right onto the back of their headshot, and if you're only doing, a handful of them, and as long as the text doesn't bleed, through your forehead on the other side, that would be fine. I definitely would not print too many because then you can't update your resume. And if you want to update it, now you have to throw away a lot of headshots. But I mean, it's something you can do. It's just not something that I do. I like stapling all four corners, and I know that way it will stay attached really well.
Very good. Alex from Hamburg, Germany asks, should I highlight certain jobs in various colors so they stand out?
Yeah, and once again, I know some people that do that as well. It's a marketing idea of getting the casting director or perhaps a director to really notice certain things. Um, I don't do that. Once again, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. To me, just personally, it feels like I'm trying too hard to get things noticed. I'm hoping that my resume is clean enough that they can very quickly scan things and get a very good idea of what they need to see. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And if there is something really specific that you think will really help you a lot at a particular audition, sure, you can do that.
Thanks, Aaron.
Sure.